Okay, at this time, I'll call the Budget and Purchasing Committee meeting to order. Pat, would you please call roll?
Kirby, Lewis, Mitchell, Moon, Samples. You have a quorum.
I'll ask now that you make the emergency announcements, Pat.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
I'll now ask if there's any public input on items on the agenda. Linda, anyone else? Linda, if you want to come on up.
Thank you. I'm Linda King from District 4. Talks about the budget should have begun a long time ago with the full commission. These talks should have included the necessary cuts that must be made to every department's requests. Last month, one commissioner stated that a status quo budget would eliminate raises for employees who are our, quote, most precious resource. In looking over the personnel salary listing, I noticed that close to 1,000 of our county employees are making over $40,000 per year, many of them in the $50,000 to $80,000 range and up. We have people in the community who are making much less, many on minimum wage or on Social Security. Do you think it's fair to require these people to pay more taxes to ensure a raise for a county employee, while that employee is already making twice as much money? Aren't all of the citizens in Blount County precious resources? After all, they spend their money in the county and pay their property taxes, even while they may not be seeing raises in their own take-home pay. The citizens in Blount County are paying not only for county employee salaries, but also for their benefit packages. How many private sector people pay only $25 a month for insurance? The county employees will start paying this amount in January. Why not start now? The employees of Blount County have a wonderful retirement plan, as well as more days off per year than most private industries, and they're not even required to work a full 40 hours per week. Yes, a good employee may be a resource, but no more precious than those private sector individuals who are paying taxes to the county to provide those jobs. I realize that we have some employees who are on the low end of the pay scale, some working in the sheriff's department. I clearly remember a commissioner questioning the sheriff during one meeting where she asked that, if we agree to your budget request, will you give raises to your lower paid deputies to lessen the pay gap? The sheriff responded by saying that when he gets his money, he'll spend it as he wishes. The pay gap between low and high wages should have been dealt with years ago. You can't blame the taxpayers for that situation. At last month's meeting, we heard that our rainy day fund may be used for this year's budget to provide the schools their maintenance of effort. We also heard, for the very first time, that some rainy day money will be used to purchase sheriff's vehicles. Why is this necessary? If it is necessary, why isn't the drug fund being used to purchase these cars? According to the state, our drug money can be used to buy cars. After all, if drug fund money can be used to purchase a house and land, then we certainly shouldn't be burdening the citizens using property tax money to buy vehicles. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item D1, purchasing. This is a review of the sole source purchases. This is for information only. Item D2 is approval of this resolution declaring the attached list of personal property surplus for sale at the internet auction. Randy?
If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them for you. That first resolution is just personal property that has been declared surplus by the elected officials. We would like to sell those items on gov deals. The second resolution is actually for the Drug Task Force property to declare that surplus, to proceed with the sale on that.
Does anyone have any questions? I'll ask for a motion. Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
Is that deed held in the name of Blount County?
There are two deeds, from what I understand, and at June 1, they were both going to be in Blount County's name. Prior to that time, there was one that was in the Public Building Authority's name.
Okay. So when these properties are sold, where will that money go?
To the Drug Task Force, right, Randy?
That's correct. The county had been carrying the debt on that, but the Drug Task Force had been paying for it. It was all through the Public Building Authority.
Okay.
And the condition before we could represent that the property was for sale, the property had to be paid, the mortgage had to be paid off, and the stipulation in the documents was that could be done at any time there was an interest or principal payment to be made on the mortgage. So that was the most current time would have been June 1.
So it has been paid off, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirby,
Wait a second. You got a discussion?
Lewis. I'm sorry.
So Randy, I just want to be sure there is no debt on this property, and that's why the money is all going to the task force, is that correct?
The county agreed to be responsible for the mortgage conditioned on the Drug Task Force actually making payments in the amount equal to the debt. And they have been doing that. They desired to have a space that fit their needs better than the current space does, and before they could do that, we needed to be able to represent in selling that property that there were no liens or obligations against the property. And that's why we'd suggested to them that the easiest way to do that is on a due date for a interest or principal payment. And the one that most closely approximated that timetable was this past June 1, earlier this month.
So there'll be no related debt once that property's sold, the money goes to the task force.
That is correct. And this is also the same piece of property that we have received estimates for surveying.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirby. Lewis. Mitchell.
Yes.
Moon.
Yes.
Samples. Motion passed.
Item 2 is a resolution declaring the property located at 718, 720, and 722 King Circle surplus and available for sale. Randy?
This is the property I've been talking about.
No, we actually voted on the resolution declaring.
There's two separate resolutions under this item. The first one is for personal property, and this one happens to be on the piece of real estate that I've been talking about. I'm sorry.
The motion that I made
Okay, do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
They are willing to reimburse for the survey.
Does that need to be in this resolution?
I don't think it's necessary. That's the agreement that we have between purchasing, my office, and the drug task force.
Is there any more discussion on that? I'll ask for a roll call vote, Pat.
Kirby? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item D3, this is a review of the awarded bids. This is for information only. It's in your packet there on those bids. Item E is the minutes. The minutes that they're in your packet. These minutes need approval. These also include all the minutes for the last 3 budget committee meetings in the month of May. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion. I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion passes. Finance increase and transfers. Next, we have the finance portion of this agenda. If approved, these items will go to the commission for approval. F1 transfers, F1A public safety, $195,671 to adult correction, food, medical, and other account for cleanup. Jeff, you want?
If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer. It's try to be pretty self-explanatory in all of the transfer documents. Well, just because it's going to be in the negative, and we have to make sure that it's not in the negative. There was a few cents in the negative, so in order to keep it in the positive, I just transferred $1 in that. And there's a few small items like that in there.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Any other questions? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please, Pat.
Kirby?
Thank you.
Lewis?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item F1B, this is a $13,867,036 to purchase desktop computers.
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Sorry.
Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirby? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Yes. Motion passed.
F1C, property assessor, $23,560, move. Randy?
As you know, the assessor's office has 2 accounts or 2 departments. That's the property assessor and then the reappraisal. In the review of our payroll accounts associated with the staff and some of the dependent coverage on benefits, part of what we're doing for year end is going through and cleaning up a bunch of stuff, and then this is something that the property assessor said that staff people and their associated expenses were misaligned between the 2 accounts. This cleans it up based on what our payroll office has reviewed. There is no additional money. It literally just moves money between the 2 accounts to keep benefits and salaries together.
Any more discussion? Any questions? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item F1D, cable TV franchise, $90,000 to adjust the revenue estimates. Randy?
The cable franchise money is coming in a little better than budget, and we did not budget that money in the general fund. We typically have had a resolution, and there was no resolution this year, so I'm recommending that you put $90,000 in as a budget, which is going into the general fund now, but the comptroller's office likes to have budgets and revenue matched up.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Jerome.
Any more discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, Pat.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
F1E, trustee commission, moving $535,000 to line item 51900. Randy?
This is nothing more than we're just reclassifying where this trustees commission gets booked. Right now it's being booked in account 58900, and we're proposing to move it to account 51900. It is the only expense showing in that appropriation. This puts it over as a trustees commission under all other general administration.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Okay. Item F2A, public safety increases. This is $1,500 to the sex offender registry. Do I hear a motion? Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions for Jeff?
Is this over and above, Jeff, what we had?
Yes. We had 5,000 budgeted. Obviously, I think I explained we collect $150, I think, from each offender, and then we have to pay the state. The expenditure is actually their portion that we're sending to them on the registry.
Does that reflect more activity?
Possibly. There's a few added every so often due to the court process.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
F2B, public defenders, Fund 101, an increase of $5,175 in payroll adjustments. Would you like to explain that?
Yes, I'm George Waters. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Garner. Mr. Garner's at a week-long conference, and he couldn't be here. This, I can shortly summarize the issue. One is that this money comes from court costs paid by criminal defendants that are convicted. That's where the source of the revenue is. This is not imposed on the taxpayers of Blount County. The only purpose these funds can be used for is for support of the Public Defender's Office at the discretion of Mr. Garner. And we are needing an increased appropriation of $5,175 to meet budget. The income from this account to date is $47,593, and so the projected income for the year would be $57,111. So appropriating this money, it looks like the fund will collect at least about $5,000 more than will be appropriated. And if there is, for some strange reason, a shortfall, that shortfall cannot be imposed on the rest of the county. The contract between these employees is with the Public Defender / Public Defenders Conference. So this county has no obligation. And this is public defender money that the county holds for us. And so we're asking for that increase. I'm not sure why the request was $55,031, and I don't know why that $49,856 was appropriated. And I've researched that, and I don't have an answer. But that's the request, that the increase, if for some strange reason there was a shortfall, the shortfall would be on our office. It cannot be imposed on the rest of the county. So,
Do I have a motion?
I'll move to get it on the floor, but I'm not understanding what I'm looking at here as opposed to what
Okay.
he's talking
Do I have a second? Okay, open for discussion.
about. I'm looking at the transfer of $5,175. He's talking $50,000.
no, I'm asking, the transfer we're asking for is the $5,100.
Okay, my second question, is this a pay increase for this person?
No. No, it's not.
Is it an additional position?
No. No, these are the independent contractor positions that provide appellate services and juvenile court services, and it's the same pay and the same position, and there's no increase. And the fund is a fund collected case by case off of criminal defendants who pay court costs, and that $12.50 a case can only be used for the support of the Public Defenders Conference.
How much money was appropriated for this fund last year?
It was a 49,000. Excuse me, I just read that off. 49,856, and I'm not sure. I had researched and went through our records and was not able to discover why the $55,031 was not approved at that time. I talked to Mr. Garner, looked through all our records, and I'm not sure why the amount, but our budgeted amount was $55,031.
So it's now going to be over 60? In
No.
that line?
Oh, excuse me.
49,856 plus 51,75.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what they were spending money basically at the rate of what they had turned in and submitted for a budget.
Yes.
And we brought it to their attention, and we've had discussions with them that we can't spend in a deficit situation regardless of who's responsible. And they have brought back to us this transfer to recognize more revenue that they have available to them.
Okay.
Does that characterize
Yes,
it?
exactly.
Any other discussion, any other questions? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item F2C, this is a $130,000 increase in the commissary fund. Jeff? Do you want to get on the floor?
I'll move.
We got a motion. We'll have a second. Okay, open for discussion. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir. This is money that we collect through the inmate trustee account. They purchase goods from the county. We pay the bill, use the revenue to set up the cost or the line item.
Any other questions? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
F2D, debt service, $426,076.7. It's an amendment related to the Tourism Development Authority. Randy, want to explain that?
Yes, when Commission approved the establishment of the Tourism Development Authority, there's a whole series of transactions we've gone through to pay the debt off, the transfer of the money and what have you. This piece is the reserve that was set aside when monies came in on the hotel motel tax that was to go for the benefit of the Tourism Development Authority. We've expensed it on our books in the debt service fund. We now have to amend the budget to take the money now out of the reserve that's sitting on the balance sheet in this account 345,800 to cover that expense we've made. We treated it as an expense, but it was really money sitting on our balance sheet that had to go to them. So that's how we flowed it through our operating statements, was to write them a check for that money. Now we're amending our budget to cover that.
No negative impact, but
No negative impact, no change in cash. It's just to get the balance sheet and the income statement trued up.
Do I have a motion? Second? Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item G, and this is on discussion and possible action. Item 1, electronic payments. Susan?
What you have before you is a draft of the product that a project team has put together. That team is made up of the trustee, the purchasing director, the IT director, the finance director, and a couple of the accounting staff. And it's based on TCA 4-30-101 that allows counties to now make electronic payments. And what you have there is a draft that has been approved by the Comptroller's Office. Should we proceed in this regard, it should really help our efficiency as far as not handling paper as much and our storage issues. Not handling paper as much, not only in our office, but the trustee's office, and eventually probably other offices as well. And we would plan to transition into this very slowly, and it will take time actually, just to make sure that vendors are ready to participate and that type of thing. Randy, I don't know that we were looking necessarily for a vote, were we? It was more for information only?
We will be the first county in the state of Tennessee to do this unless you tell us not to do it.
Was John a part of this?
Yes. You will see very little, if anything, to come to you that doesn't include everybody that is involved in it. They will all be involved on the front end, just like we did the grant process. This is typical of what you're going to see from us. We're going to have everybody at the table before we ever bring anything to you.
This is just for payments you're making.
That's correct. I mean, it's kind of the reverse of direct deposit in a way on payroll. It'll take us a while to get compliance from all of our vendors. A lot of vendors aren't set up this way, and then we have other vendors that would actually prefer us to pay this way and will give us a discount if we do that. So we're just trying to get in the 21st century.
Do you need action?
That's up to you. It's a policy type matter. I mean, I'd welcome it if you all support it, because I'd like to move forward with it.
I move to approve.
Want to do a voice vote on this?
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it gonna be a savings in hours, and it's gonna be savings in money too, right?
I certainly hope so. Has to be a lot more efficient and more economical than having people handle paper all the time.
But you still are gonna have accounts that you still gonna have to write them a check.
There will still be accounts we have to write a
They
check,
can't
yes.
accept it at their bank. Okay.
But I can give you an example. If you look at just how many times my office handles a check before it goes out the door, it's 4 times just in my office. That's nuts. This would eliminate a lot of that. And then we've got As Susan pointed out, we have the efficiency of capturing all that data electronically. It should be more expeditious between the departments and us as the paying agent and the trustee. And we've got all the accountability laid out with our current procedures, and the comptroller's office has signed off on that. I'm pretty excited about it.
So everybody on the general government side's gonna be involved except the schools?
They would be eligible for the same thing
Okay.
if they chose to do that. It's the way we would propose to pay bills going forward.
Thank you.
So the controls that you have in place, they have gone to the comptroller's office, they have agreed that the controls that you have set up internally meet their requirements?
Yes.
Does this in any way take away any transparency at all?
No, it actually makes it more transparent.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'll ask for, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Kirby? Yes. Lewis? Yes. Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
G2, grant applications, elections, state comptroller grant for 2,000. Randy, you going to explain that for Libby?
Yes, this is a grant that we get from the state for something they require us to do. They're willing to pay for it. $2,000.
Move approval, no matter.
Have a second? Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Yes. Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
2B, Drug Task Force, 14th Justice Assistance Grant for 16,000. Randy, you explain that?
This is an application for a grant that the 5th Judicial Task Force is applying for. It's a 75-25, 25 local match, and it is for $16,000, and this is an application. Money would come from the Drug Task Force. The match would.
Do I have a motion? And a second? Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
It appears to be. It is one year, isn't it? I looked at the wrong place. What? Yes, one-time grant. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirby? Yes. Lewis? Yes. Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item 2C, Sheriff's Office 2013 COPS grant for 1.3 million. Jeff, you want to explain that?
This is a COPS grant, as you all are aware of. Back in the 90s, when we were able to put SROs in the schools, the federal government has opened the COPS program back, and we are requesting to apply for the application. It is a 75-25% match over a 3-year period. If we are granted the approval to submit the application and we are awarded, obviously, we would have to come back here for your approval of the appropriations.
What can that be used for? Just personnel?
Yes, it's personnel. One of the things that if it was approved by the commission and we were granted the application through the COPS office, one of the things that the sheriff has committed to is to add some drug enforcement personnel to the streets.
Do I have a motion?
it's a 3-year period grant.
And then after 3 years, the county will be picking up the whole bill.
Right.
And it's to hire personnel with.
Yes, sir. It would be a personnel grant.
Jeff, do you have to commit to keep those? You can't, at the end of the 3 years, terminate. You have to keep them, that personnel employed.
If you accept the grant and you do the 3-year period, you have to 4th year commit.
This is just approval to apply for the grant, right? And then it has to go back before the full commission if.
Yeah, if the grant was, if we submit the grant and it's approved, we're obviously not gonna be able to spend any money unless the commission approves the appropriation. We would have to actually come to you and appropriate the full amount. Then we would request reimbursement from the county, or for the county, from the COPS program every year.
So the first 3 years, it's gonna cost the county, 119.
Yeah, it'd be 25% of them.
And then after the 3 years, if it's, people still on board, we be picking up the whole amount plus whatever increase has been over the 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I move approval, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
First of all, we'll have to get, this is just to apply. The next step would have to be approval. Then there would be another decision for it to be made.
Yes, sir. I mean, this is application process. If we get a letter back that we get approved, obviously the county can say we're not financially in the shape to accept the award. This is just the application. We're not obligating anything at this point. I've got to bring it back to this body and then to the full commission to get complete approval of it. Just like any other grant that it would have to be appropriated.
If the community continued to grow, or if this could be used for any purpose personnel-wise. So if we needed that, could this be used at the jail?
No, this was only for law enforcement on the street purposes.
Okay.
So basically, Jeff, year one's a little over $100,000 cost to the county. Year 2 and year 3 about the same. In year 4, it would cost the county right at $1 million.
But whatever the total package, yeah, the salaries and benefit, $1.3 million, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Year 3 match, $119,000.
Well, yeah, 100,000 a year or so for the first 3 years, $1.3 million in year 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If you approved it.
Any other discussion? This is to apply for the grant. Roll call vote, please.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Fund balance policy guidelines. These are just all discussion issues. We'll start with item 4A, fiscal 13-14 budget. Administrative changes. Randy?
If you don't mind, I want to at least kind of transition here. I provided to the full commission this email that I sent out regarding fund balance policy. This is from our financial advisor. It's not anything I've compiled on my own. It is information from the Government Finance Officers Association, all 3 of the rating agencies, and it's also got some tables in there that are compiled on Tennessee credits, some of the larger cities and counties, and then we've been included by way of comparison. I did this for two reasons. One is after I went through the ratings review with Fitch in April, or in March, they said that they would really like to see us adopt a fund balance policy. Standard & Poor's said the same thing last spring, and frankly, we've not brought anything to you, and I've been after PFM to kind of see if there was some standard out there that we could bring you that's objective, that's not colored in any way by somebody's particular agenda. I think it's actually pretty good information. It's not ironclad, but it gives you, I think, enough parameters that we could formulate a policy if that's your desire based on this information. It's also fitting, I think, because we are talking about the proposal that's before the commission now on the budget, and we are talking about the use of fund balance for next year's budget. And I've addressed a number of questions from individual commissioners in my discussions with you. What does this do to our bond rating? And I just wanted to give you something that's not from, not my work, so that you could kind of formulate in your own mind how this stacks up with the proposal that's before you. I'll be willing to address any questions that you might have on the fund balance.
So the city of Memphis has a better bond rating than Blount County. The city of Memphis, and Shelby County does also.
Yes. Don't ask me how that is. I can tell you from my prior experience that was always something that wasn't quite explainable. It is still not, in my opinion. I will tell you this, any community's credit rating is not looked at on its own merits alone. It is influenced by the county's rating, and it is influenced by the state's rating. So cities in a county benefit from the county's rating and vice versa. It's an indication of the community as a whole's financial condition and wherewithal. And then they're also impacted by the state as well. And in our case, we have a good credit rating. The state has a really good credit rating. And as Fitch told us, we're a candidate to have our credit rating upgraded in the near future, if things continue as we're moving, in the direction we're moving.
Randy, just talk a minute, if you will, about those comparables that Commissioner Moon was just looking at as it relates to that last column that talks about percentage of general fund revenues and Blount County's percentage at 19.9 in comparison to those other counties that are listed there.
Well, that percentage of general fund revenues is how much unobligated, unassigned, uncommitted fund balance, the amount you could appropriate from if you had something you wanted to purchase. How is that relative to our revenue base? And in Blount County's case, we're at 19.9% as stated against comparison of revenues. Hamilton County, which is a AAA rated, is at 54.8%. Knox County's 29.9%. Shelby County's 25.3%. Metro Nashville is 8.9%. And I will say this, those are just comparisons. You'll see the three credit ratings. All these communities, well, no, about half of them have all three rating agencies that review them. Knox, Shelby, and Metro do not have Fitch ratings. The other five governments have Fitch ratings, as well as Moody's and Standard & Poor's. Traditionally, Moody's has typically favored a stronger analysis of management and policies, whereas Standard & Poor's is typically focused more on economic activity of a community. And Fitch is kind of a hybrid of those because it was associates who worked in both those firms that went out and started that firm. as I recall. So you're going to get a little bit of that different view. But all these, the thing that's important, I think, for us to keep in mind, there's been a lot of attention on credit analysis, given where we've come from in 2008 and till now. And I think the thing we have to keep in mind is, to the extent we were to do anything by policy or action that lessens our financial condition, if it caused us to lose our credit or decrease our credit rating, it takes longer to get that back than it does to lose it. I can tell you that from firsthand experience in my former life. It's particularly true now because the credit rating agencies are under a lot of pressure to look at things more, they are cautioned to look at things more stringently now than they used to.
And that is,
in my opinion,
general rule is true across the board. It's much easier to lose it than it is to gain it back once you have lost it.
It took us 5 years in Knoxville once we got downgraded to get back to where we were before the downgrade. And that was a long slog.
And one other question, with ours, our percentage of general revenue, or the fund revenues at 19.9, each of those 4 counties that are, and obviously the larger that percentage, the better. But all those who are above us also have a higher bond rating than we do.
Yes.
So fair to say that number, the higher that number gets, the better the chance for a better rating.
Yes. And their emphasis would be on what is your policy and how well do you adhere to your policy. I would suggest to you that it's better to have a policy, and even if you used fund balance, if it is planned for in that policy and a replacement of it is planned for in that policy, that's viewed much more favorably than if you have no policy, you use reserves, and you have no plan to replenish them. I mean, that's just common sense to me. I mean, I think you'll glean that from some of the commentary that I provided you.
Well, that was my other question, is how does fund balance play into all that?
It's a significant role. What the rating agencies, if you'll recall some of the feedback I gave you from the rating agencies, they have applauded Blount County's improved financial operations. I had no role in any of that. That was well underway before I got here. And to the degree that our financial position is improved because of the stewardship of all parties involved in Blount County government, we're to be commended for that, and it has now been recognized by the rating agencies. And very simply put, in the past we have been relying on the use of fund balance to balance our budget. For the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, we have not done that, and they have recognized that improvement.
So, and my point in all that is to say that if we revert to a policy of balancing the budget with fund balance, it certainly takes away the positives that got us to this situation where we improved our rating. Is that fair to say?
I think it hurts.
Thank you.
Randy, I have a question. On this comparison chart, why is it that we are compared to all counties that are at least twice as big as we are, and there are no comparison with counties in our population area?
Fair question. They had prepared this document for other clients, and all I did was ask them to put Blount County in there so they wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. I didn't do it against peer counties, but obviously Knox County's a neighbor. I just merely wanted to see how we stacked up.
Yeah, and I'm noticing
I kind of dreamed big.
I notice here that they say this is for counties for between 250 and 1 million population.
Right.
I mean, we don't fall in that range. How can we compare ourselves to these?
You don't, but the comparison is really above. I just didn't want them to go commission. Wasn't asking them to commission a report just for our size counties. I was trying to use something that they had already started that is still applicable. The narrative definitely applies to us.
The narrative applies, but I would like to see how we compare to counties our size.
Okay.
As far as what our bond rating is compared to.
It's a fair point.
5 counties closer to us, because comparing us to the city of Memphis and Shelby County is not quite a good comparison.
That's true. I will suggest to you, though, that including the larger communities in East Tennessee and probably including the Tri-Cities area would not be unreasonable, for the simple reason, if you look at economic activity in the 3 grand divisions, that's the way the rating agencies will tend to look at it. So to the extent that Volkswagen does well for Chattanooga and Hamilton County, I think there is some spillover effect into this region as well, particularly on the supplier side. But I'll get that.
Okay,
I'll get that information.
But I guess the other question, Randy, if you're looking at, I mean, I guess everything's relative. So if you've got a larger tax base to pull from, you also have larger expenses in education across the board as well. So it could be that those percentages, the general fund revenues, would be relative as well.
Yeah.
So even though it was a larger county with a larger tax base and bigger population, that would also have, you know, more expenses at all levels, so that the comparison on the general fund revenues may be accurate to look at across the board.
Well, obviously, they break it down into 250 to 1 million for some reason.
Yeah, it'd be good information to have,
Yeah.
but especially in looking at other numbers.
I would just suggest to you that neighboring counties are influenced by the major metropolitan areas. You can't totally exclude them. And again, I'm not one to just sit here and get hung up on numbers. This is really just to kind of give you a flavor as much as anything else.
Okay. All right, now look at the administrative changes. Randy?
Yes. All right, there are some lesser items, not in importance, but lesser items that as a result of action that commission has taken, as a result since the budget was submitted, and as a result of some of the departments giving us feedback as they've gone back and reviewed the budget documents that have been submitted to you regarding their departments, we've got some what I consider housekeeping type matters that I would submit to you for your consideration. I've characterized them as administrative changes, but they're really housekeeping type matters that we would suggest to you that if we want to have you consider everything that we know, we'd like to submit them to you for your consideration. You have those in front of you. See the spreadsheet in there. Go to the G4A administrative changes, and this is a summary of what those changes are. We have the DGA contract with the state for the health department, and that's a $601 item. The commission has approved in April the judicial commissioner that we didn't have included in here until you all adopted it. That's in here. That is a gross up on the appropriations, and also it's funded with additional revenues. And then we have an adjustment, a minor adjustment on the soil and conservation operation, $576. We've got a change in the school system, the way a capital lease is accounted for by the state auditors that is recommended for change. It is nothing more than which account we pay it out of, which department we pay it out of. And then that impacts the debt service fund, principal and the amount allocated for principal and interest. I guess those two accounts are in.
And we took care of the cable franchise revenue in the previous action earlier in the meeting.
For the current year.
Okay.
Current year. This is for the fiscal 13-14 budget. And then I'm sorry, I did leave out, we are recognizing $64,000 in cable franchise fees in the general fund in the 14 budget. Sorry, I overlooked that. And then the item above that already presumes, if you were inclined to approve these administrative changes or housekeeping matters, the appropriation resolution is the document prior to this. It is highlighted with all the proposed changes.
I have a motion to accept administrative changes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it to get some discussion.
Okay, so I'll open the floor for discussion.
Randy, what's the bottom line budget difference between, or with these changes?
$337,037.
Increase
That is the cumulative change to the appropriation. So yes, that would be an increase.
so that's another penny.
Well, remember, this is all funds. That's the cumulative total of, if you added up, if you looked at the appropriation resolution, the total, 160. Slow down here. Lost my tab. Can't get to the top page.
Is this before or after?
Before these changes, the budget in aggregate is $164,445,434. This changes it to $165,082,471.
So about 1 cent, 300, a little over.
That would equate to roughly a penny.
But some of those items will flow through though. There's some
Yes.
revenue items that are unbudgeted,
Yes.
so it's not really fair to say.
It's revenue coming against.
Yeah,
That's
you'll have
correct.
some offset, so you can't say it's true.
Well, that's why I'm asking what the net effect to the budget
It's not one penny.
is. Well, if it's 337,000 it is.
Yeah, but you've got revenue coming in against some of that. Is that not right?
Your question is the net.
I mean, that was my question, is what is the net difference?
Go, go to the G4A administrative changes, the spreadsheet that talks about the summary of changes. And that may be the easier way to look at it. You're seeing whether you've got revenue to come in with each of those or not.
On page 41, is that what you're looking at?
G4A administrative changes. I don't know what the page number is.
49, 366. Page 49. 41 is
We actually
G4A.
have more.
It's page 9 of that, I guess.
All right, we have $399,860 worth of revenue coming in, and we're going to be appropriating $337,037. So the net effect is, and it's predominantly because of the cable franchise fees, you've got an excess of revenue over the appropriations. $399,860 in revenue adjustments in these administrative changes, and $337,037 in increased appropriations.
I'm still not seeing the spreadsheet you're talking about, but
It's a net positive effect.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's after the resolution, Steve, the appropriation resolution.
the one on page 49, is that what it was? I don't find the 399 on here anywhere. Yeah, I'm looking at administrative changes summary, but the numbers aren't matching.
She just worked it in her formula here.
Oh, we didn't get it, okay. That explains why I
Let's
can't
have
find
that
it.
in the packet. I'll get this in the commission's packet. I apologize.
But the bottom line is it's a net positive, not a negative.
That is correct.
Motion is to approve the amended appropriations resolution with the administrative changes.
That's what I've submitted, yes, sir.
Well, that's the pending motion on the floor.
Any more discussion?
Is the committee ready to vote?
I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell? I'm sorry, okay, Moon?
Yes.
Samples? Motion passed.
Item B, it's additional funding request. Randy?
You've got the email in your packet here behind G4B regarding the property assessor's request. As I mentioned at our last meeting, there were several requests that were submitted as additional funding requests over and above my characterization of a status quo budget. And some of those were not we did not recommend to the full commission. The property assessor is asking for consideration on that. If you will recall, this budget for this office was significantly reduced during the change of terms, and it was acknowledged at that time when the new assessor got on board and had a chance to get familiar with everything up there that was needed, that at some point this body would reconsider that. It's back in before you. I think my office I don't think it's in here, what you have, but maybe it is. We mischaracterized the compensation as an across-the-board increase. That is not an across-the-board increase. So that was my fault for that being the value was the same. It was misinformation, though, that we mischaracterized it. I will say this, you've just taken action on about $64,000 worth of money that is now before you that you didn't have previously or will have in the future when it comes in. That you may want to factor that into your consideration of this request.
Net effect of this request, Randy, is what, 70,000 or so? 71,000.
Well, the reappraisal, 52,310 is 70,000. And account 52,300 is another 67,000.
Yeah, the total request for all his operations that he submitted was over $130,000.
Yeah.
Between the two.
Actually, it's about 150, isn't it?
We have had some conversations and suggested that that wasn't going to be possible. Is there a way that he could get by with less? And he's indicated he might be able to do that. So I think it's fair for me to say he is not expecting the full request, even though he would like to have it.
What will not funding the reappraisal budget, what will that cost us? I mean, is that not something that's
Number is that 52.3. The initial request for additional request for the assessor's office was an additional $67,384, and on the reappraisal, the additional request was $71,713. I can tell you that from a staffing perspective, what the assessors told me is, as much as he would prefer to have both, he prefers to have the deputy appraiser versus the support position.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to amend 52,300 to $829,132. That would pick up the items of $12,933, the additional deputy assessor and benefits, but would not do the salary increases and benefits for 3 appraisers. Does that make sense? Actually, increase, I believe, would be $43,702.
Repeat that again, Commissioner. What was that number you just said?
The request for 52,300 being $829,132. That would be granting $12,933 for the expense line item 500,317, and then $32,000 for the additional deputy assessor and benefits, which would be under item 500,103. But part of my motion is not recommending the $9,000 for the salary adjustments nor the $1,749 for benefits.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Every department in county government feels like their people could use a $1,000 raise, and it's not fair to any other department to grant this and in discussions with the property assessor, said they're entry-level people and they've completed their probation. It's the same thing for a patrolman or a new employee. Everyone should be looked at, not just one. So that's why I feel like that 500-103 shouldn't be granted.
Any other discussion? Have a motion and a second. I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon?
Yes.
Sample? Motion passed.
Item 4C, proposed tax rate resolution. Randy?
So where you at, Mayor? I'm sorry.
4C, tax rate resolution.
I don't have any proposed changes to this. I've talked to the overwhelming majority of the commissioners individually. There seemed to be some interest to at least differentiate on the 108 and separating the 9-cent shift and specifying its maintenance of effort, but that's the only reason I have it on here. I don't know if there's a desire among commission as a whole to do that or not. I have no proposed changes to make to this. That's just a theme that has come up during my discussions. This is the resolution that is before commission right now. I think a lot of that stems from the confusion on the part of the public, which stems from because commission is a funding body in county government of education and everything else in county government, the public jumps to the logical conclusion that commissions can tell entities how to spend their money. And in the case of education in the state of Tennessee, that is not correct. So that is some misinformation that the public has, and that was just a thought. If you wanted to change this and set the shifting of the pennies out as a separate item, then so be it. And before we leave the other item on additional funding requests, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I handed out some information to you at the budget workshop of the full commission that also talked about items like GIS, 911, veterans, there was several others, jail, operating expenses. There were a number of other items that this body did not recommend to the full commission that if you want to reconsider any of those, tonight's the last night we've got to do anything before this goes to the full commission. The issue with the 911 center and GIS is those are interlocal agreements that we have with the city of Maryville and the city of Alcoa. I have advised both parties that right now those funding requests are not in the budget, and they've asked that I at least make you aware of that one more time, so I'm doing that.
Splitting out the MOE part of the 108.
That was just something that I came up with in my conversations with other commissioners when I met with them individually on the budget. I think it's part frustration, it's part misinformation on the part of the public, and the shifting of pennies to education and the concern that comes from, well, does this mean we're automatically going to have to give them 108 next year, and even if things improve? And I just said, well, maybe the way to make it clearer what's taking place here is that if you left the school tax at 99 cents, like it is right now, and you're adding an additional 9 cents as a result of taking it from general purposes on the county tax rate, general county, it's clear that you are funding with that 9 cents maintenance of effort for the schools.
Well, I think it's a good idea, just so the public can see what the maintenance of effort cost is. Doesn't make any difference, obviously, to the resolution as we have it, but I think it'd be a good idea to break it out so that it does become a little more clear as to what the 9 cents is for.
I think it would be clear, but I'm not voting. This also stems from a conversation I had with a lady that called in the office too, so I'm not going to take credit for the idea.
What do we have to do to actually split it out on there so that it becomes a little
We have to amend this resolution.
This resolution would need amending because it's before the full commission right now.
Do we amend it
This is
here?
what you voted on previously. So if you want to change what the commission considers, this would need to be amended.
Well, then I'd like to make that amendment that we break out the 9 cents from the 108 so that it does show that 9 cents is for maintenance of effort.
Okay, so how would you want to say it? School tax to operate elementary, middle, and high schools for maintenance of effort? Or?
Yeah, so it goes, the 108 drops and then we add the 9 cents in.
Okay, so we'd have 4 lines that comprise the tax rate.
Instead of 3.
Okay.
Correct.
And the net effect of the schools is the same.
And
it
the net
just spells
effect,
out the change.
Yeah, the net effect of the bottom line is the same.
Yes.
As well. That'd be my motion.
Okay.
Okay. I have the resolution with the amendment on the floor, motion. Do I have a second? Okay, and that's to break out the maintenance of effort from the 108. Open it for discussion now.
Brenda, we're working on 304 and a high at $500,000 on the 215, correct?
Yes, sir.
If there was any improvement next year of extra money coming in, that would raise that up to 308, 38, not back up to 310 like we figured last year. Could we make to your amendment that money go back, if this was to increase in the next year, our money coming in, the penny worth would be worth more than 304, 500. That money would go back into general.
Okay, good.
Instead of fund balance. It's possible that it could happen. That the penny be worth more as the year progressed, but it could come down too.
You're correct. It could increase and it could decrease. I can tell you right now we're over 96% collection right now for the current year. Doesn't mean we're going to hit it next year, but this county has a good record of paying its taxes.
Why I say this, by checking with building codes and stuff, they are an increase in stuff that's been built. There's more subdivisions being opened. Planning Commission is proving more stuff to be redone. We're seeing a lot of subdivisions that went into, you might as well say bankruptcy, that the banks have sold and they're coming back to the Planning Commission, and we're reworking the whole thing and giving them more leeway where they can start building more houses and building more houses. So it's possible it could go up some. And my question is, if it does go up some, instead of taking the whole 9 cents, which up on front would be taking the 9 cents, but
Well, here's the practical side of it. You're not going to know that until this time next year. It's going to be May and June when you know that. And at that point, we're going to be having this same conversation about, have we met our tests for maintenance of effort, or have we not met our tests for maintenance of effort? So I think it's probably, as a practical side, I understand where you're coming from, but practically we're really talking about FY 14-15 budget is where that will come into play. And I would also suggest, and most people don't realize this, homeowners, while they maybe feel a brunt of whatever happens in government, the folks paying the freight practically are the commercial and industrial properties. That's where the majority of the tax base is. So a small movement there could actually yield bigger benefits than a significant movement on the residential side. What we would hope for as a community that you've got both going on. And I'm not saying that to differentiate our preference one way or the other. I'm just, the practical side of it is the value in the property base is on the business side. It's assessed at 40% versus 25% for a home.
so when you really look at it, if there's an increase in sales tax, any type of thing, it's going to above beyond what we appropriated for all the departments. That money is going to end up in fund balance, correct?
Yes,
And
net
if
effect.
if we take money out of the fund balance to take care of these shortfalls,
It just
so that
means you
would be a
won't
way
use
of
as
putting the money
much.
back in the fund balance.
It just means you won't use as much, yes.
Randy, on the Okay. Do I have a motion? Okay. We ready to vote? Amendment on, yeah, on the amendment. Roll call vote.
Kirby? Lewis? Mitchell?
Yes.
Moon? Samples? Motion passed.
Proposed appropriation resolution, Randy, 4D.
All right, here is where we're at. You previously, by 3 actions, we have on item G4A, which was the appropriation resolution that incorporated the administrative changes. That has become the prevailing controlling budget document. We now have amended that to include the changes for the property assessor. My number is we've increased that appropriation $56,635. That's the number I came up with. I want to make sure that I've got that right. That's the $12,933 for the CAMA system and $32,000 for the deputy assessor position and $11,700 on benefits.
How much did that come up with?
I came up with $56,635. So that change will be where we're at. You previously voted on some current year budget items that we'll need to clean up a couple of things. The item on the property assessor's office where we moved it between accounts. And then, what was the other item, Susan?
The trustee commission.
The trustee commission. Go ahead.
Trustee commission where we moved it between accounts also.
So my comment to you is this: we need to clean those up tonight and in the morning and get those ready to come back to the full commission tomorrow night. But the resolution will include those items as you have acted tonight.
And you will highlight them as you did for everybody?
Yes, we will do that. Anything else I need to add to the appropriation resolution? So we'll have, do I need to show those as amended resolutions?
Yes.
Both of them?
Both of them, yeah.
Okay.
That's the way we voted on it.
All right, we will have those ready tomorrow and get them to Rhonda for inclusion tomorrow night.
So you need a motion on G4D.
That's up to you. I'm clear with what your direction to me is based on the cumulative actions and votes you've taken tonight. But if you want to have one vote, I have no problem with that.
Before we vote on it? You okay to vote on it with the amendments? We okay to vote on it on 4D?
No motion on the floor.
Okay. I mean, are y'all,
We've already.
do we need to vote on that?
The only thing that 4D would really apply to now would be the items
Right.
that you voted on for the current year, and we will take that information and correct it in the proposed draft that you'll get for 14.
So we don't take any action right there.
I'm not recommending
Okay.
any.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, item H is the finance report, and this is information only. I'll now ask for any input on items not on the agenda. Linda?
I'm Linda King, and you never fail to astound me. You're elected to secure my rights under the Constitution and to protect my rights to protect myself. Sure, we need a sheriff's department, but you're considering tying our hands in the amount of $1.3 million in 3 years, and we can't budget within our revenue now. Where does common sense come into place? Do you really expect us to believe that if this COPS grant is accepted, that you'll then say no? Or will we hear another yes, 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 yes? When will you listen to the citizens who want cuts, not increases? Like I said, you never fail to astound me.
Any other input on items not on the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that.
Okay.
Apologize for being late. I was trying to get it on the internet, but the new system is not working very well. We're using the YouTube process, and I couldn't get it to work long enough to be of use, so I'm here. But I wouldn't be able to hear what I heard and say what I'm about to say without being here, so glory to God. question I have is, our maintenance of effort, I understand, is the money we owe Blount County schools, and it's $1.6 million. Why are the taxpayers being asked to pay $900,000 more than is required to pay? Is there not another way that we could save the taxpayers $900,000 and give Blount County schools the maintenance effort money of $1.6 million they need? Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Hearing none, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
This is in regards to item 5A, audit pre-planning items. Just real quickly, we just wanted to state that simultaneously with the budget process right now, we are working on the audit as well, which will officially begin after June 30th. We're currently trying to clean up items, and a lot of what you've seen tonight is that cleanup, relates to that cleanup. But our last opportunity to bring anything to you, obviously, as far as the budget committee, is tonight. We're still working on some of that, and so I think what we wanted to do with this item was just really to give you a heads up or to ask permission, if need be, if we need to bring something to you at your June 20th full commission meeting, we would like to be able to do that. Did I state that correctly, Randy?
These two processes just overlap. They don't run concurrent anymore. But Susan's right. Much what you've heard from Jeff and everybody else is a lot of this is just cleanup stuff, making sure we've got appropriations for where money's been spent, making sure we've got budgets when we're recognizing revenue. We're doing the analysis on other funds, our insurance funds and what have you. I don't know what all's going to shake out of all that over the next week and a half or so, but there may be an item that we're not aware of right now that we need to get some consideration by the body on, and the only thing we know to do is bring it to the full commission if that were to arise. And we would do that to try to avoid any potential finding in our audit process. What are you asking us for? Nothing. Just making you aware that that's what's going on right
now. At this time, I'll call the budget public hearing to order and ask Pat to call the roll.
Kirby. Here. Lewis. Here. Mitchell.
Here.
Moon. Here. Samples. We have a quorum.
Pat, if you would please make the emergency announcement.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
I'll now ask if anyone has any input on the public hearing. Linda?
When I made my comments earlier, I thought that was the start of the public hearing. Should I make these again to put this in this section of the archives?
We can note it.
We can note it and put it in the archives into the public hearing if you want us to, Linda. Yeah. 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 Anyone else? Harry?
Appreciate the opportunity. I had the occasion to speak to the school board Thursday night and give them copies of the Banner of Truth. And in there, I reference Commissioner Foltz's fine research and historical reporting that I think is important enough to speak to, because many of the commissioners who I spoke to at the Education School Board did not remember that 2007, this commission took 5% of the property tax rate from their property tax share and put it into the general fund in order to provide a positive cash flow because of the refinancing of the called swaps and derivatives that we were financing then. And therefore, I think it's important for you all to recognize the history that you have with the school board and how you have not only fallen to a point where you are the lowest county in the 3 or 4 counties that compare to our size and population in Tennessee, issuing a share of what the school board says is now just 28% of our property taxes going to their budget, as opposed to Sullivan, Sumner, and Washington counties, which range from 33, 34 to 35% of their property taxes. So I think that it would behoove you to recognize that there is an imbalance in your priorities compared to those other county commissions in the state as to how they have chosen to fund education. And you need to address that issue and discuss it. You need to find out, well, what are we doing to that other 10, perhaps now 13 cents on the property tax rate? What are we doing with that? And if we've been doing it with general county budget funds that have continuing expenses, we have not been dealing the important issues with it, and that is putting it in debt service so that we don't take money of recurring expenses out of for debt service out of our savings account. That'd be like putting your mortgage on your credit card. Do any of you put your mortgage on your credit card payment? Nobody puts mortgages on their credit cards. Gee, then why are we doing it here? Why are we taking our rainy day fund, which is a diminishing fund balance, and putting that towards debt service that's going to go on for another 27 years? Please, quit embarrassing the people who elected you and start looking at the historical perspective and importance of your position and allocating your resources and hours in a responsible, forward-thinking, and efficient, fair manner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anyone else? Hearing none, I'll call the public hearing closed. I hear a motion for adjournment.